Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you guys here, and I'm really pleased to be at an event live and in person. The last time we were at an event was February 28th, 2020. So, anyhow, my name is Shirley, and I am a very grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Al-Anon. And Al-Anon is probably a little less famous, I guess I'm going to say, than AA. Most people understand what AA is all about. It's for people who have a problem with alcohol. Al-Anon, on the other hand, is for people who don't really have a problem with alcohol, but they have a problem with their alcoholic. And so we are a mutual support group for anyone who has been affected by someone else's drinking. Our third tradition states in part that the only requirement for membership is that there be a problem of alcoholism in a relative or a friend. So, how did Al-Anon even get started? AA got started by a couple of fellows. One was a salesman, one was a doctor. And they ended up writing what they called the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they started their meetings up in 1935. So, while the alcoholics were going to meetings, their families, and mostly in 1935 it was wives, were sitting around waiting for them to be finished with their meetings. And Bill W., who is one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, he used to have meetings in his home. And his wife, Lois, looked out one night when the meetings were in progress, and she saw a lineup of cars down the street in front of her house. And in each car, there was sitting a wife waiting for her husband to come out of this meeting. And Lois began to think that, she had some interesting problems because her husband was an alcoholic. And she wondered if maybe these other people also had the same problems as she did. So she ended up inviting these women into her home, and they started chatting about their common problems. And as it turns out, their common problems were common. They were very similar in all cases. Although the alcoholic was suffering, the families of the alcoholics were also suffering. We call alcoholism a family disease because it affects every member of the family. There's a statistic out there that says that one alcoholic can affect up to 15 or 20 people. So, that includes family, friends, co-workers, employers. There's a whole list of people that one alcoholic will touch in their life. And she brought these ladies in, and they started talking, and they decided that maybe we needed to have, a fellowship of our own. And that's basically how Al-Anon began. So Lois W. and her friend Ann B. got together and decided that they were going to make this fellowship something permanent. So in 1951, Al-Anon was formed. So we waited for 16 years after AA to make sure they got it right, and then we did it. So if any of you have ever seen the movie or read the book When Love Is Not Enough, you know what it's all about, but it's Lois W.'s story. And if you ever get the opportunity to either see the movie or read the book, do. It's a wonderful story. So what we have now, we have Al-Anon groups in, I don't know the exact number, but in a lot of countries around the world. This is a worldwide organization. We have many, many meetings here in Edmonton, and, we're here at Resource Connect today with all our information. Friends and family of alcoholics include adult children. A lot of our members were raised in alcoholic homes. They either had a mother or a father or both who were alcoholics. We also now today have a lot of parents and grandparents coming to our meetings because young people are more susceptible, or they seem to be getting into trouble, and we don't know how to handle that when it happens, especially if it's a child. And also husbands and wives, of course, and it's any walk of life. Alcoholism does not pick and choose, like it can be anybody. People think of alcoholics as the people that are out in Skid Row, laying in the street, begging for money. And yes, those are some of them. But there are also alcoholics who hold very, very responsible positions. We have doctors and lawyers and, you know, all kinds of people who come to Alcoholics Anonymous and to Al-Anon because alcoholism has no, you know, it has no boundaries. It affects millions and millions of people. In Al-Anon, we practice the 12 steps, or we try to live by the 12 steps. We are a 12-step program. The 12 steps we talk about come directly from Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill W. and Bob S. Wrote those steps, and today there are over 200 different organizations that actually use those 12 steps. So they're, you know, to me, AA has been around for 85 years, Al-Anon for 16 years, less than that. They have helped millions of people with these 12 steps. We try to live the 12 steps for our own recovery, though. When we come into Al-Anon, we're to leave all our affiliations, other affiliations at the door. We're an anonymous group. And anonymity means that we identify ourselves at meetings by our first name and last initial only. If you choose to break your anonymity, that is up to you. But nobody in your group or any other Al-Anon would break your anonymity. It's a very important principle to all of us, especially in the beginning, because regardless of how advanced we might think we are today, there is still a stigma about alcoholism. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with others knowing that they are attending anything like these meetings. So that's why we try to keep it anonymous. I have been going to Al-Anon meetings myself for a number of years, and at this point in my Al-Anon journey, I really don't care who knows I'm in Al-Anon. But in the beginning, I did. I really did. I didn't want anybody to know that I was going, because I didn't want anybody to know there was a problem in my family. And by me going to Al-Anon, I thought, oh my God, you know, like I'm confessing that there's a problem, that I have an issue, that we need help in our family. But, you know, in looking around the room at the other people that were in the room, they were all in the same position I was. Their stories may have been a little bit different than mine, but the way we felt and our reactions and the things we were going through were all basically the same. So in Al-Anon, we keep the focus on us and not on the alcoholic. We don't come to discuss the alcoholic or what he did last week or what she said or anything like that. We're in Al-Anon to talk about ourselves. We're in Al-Anon for our own recovery. And we're there to share our feelings and our thoughts and to talk about exactly how this disease has affected us. I keep referring to alcoholism as a disease, and I do that because the American Medical Association, as well as the Canadian and those other associations around the world, have declared that alcoholism is a disease. So it's not something that I recognized when I first came into the program. I thought it was a choice. But today, of course, I realize it is not a choice. It is a disease, and it is uncontrollable in a lot of people. The other thing that in Al-Anon, there seems to be a lot of mention of God. And my first couple of meetings, I was a little afraid of that because I don't have a lot of good religious experiences. However, I found out very quickly that Al-Anon is not a religious program. Although we use the word God in our literature and we talk about God, we also refer to God as a higher power, or the universe, or whatever you want it to be. But the wonderful thing about Al-Anon is that you are allowed to choose your God. It doesn't have to be a God from any church. It can be whatever you want it to be. In my case, it's nature. That's what I call my higher power. But everybody has their own. Nothing was ever forced on me when I came in. I was allowed to think for myself, to make my own decisions, and to pick a higher power that I was comfortable with. And I have done that, and I lean on that higher power today for help and guidance. And, you know, my life has changed completely since I came into this program. The other thing you might find in Al-Anon is that, you know, there's people there that have been coming to Al-Anon for a while, and they have a little bit of experience, et cetera, et cetera. So you might think that, you know, well, that's a good person to give me some advice about my situation. We do not give advice in Al-Anon. You know, we're a peer group. We are not a professional group, and we're all volunteers. So when people come into the program, you leave your employment, your occupation at the door as well. Unless you are comfortable about telling people what that is, it's entirely up to you how much you reveal about yourself or not. That is up to you. You know, we come to these meetings and, you know, newcomers and old-timers draw on others' experience, strength, and hope. We share with each other at every meeting. We share about how to cope with many situations. You know, I might talk about something that's happening in my home, and the next person might talk about, you know, that same thing happened to me, and this is what I did. Now, you know, that might or might not work for me, but it's experience that I'm listening to. You know, somebody has already walked a mile in my shoes, and this is what they did to get through it. So I could try that or not. It's entirely up to me. Nobody forces anything on you in Al-Anon. You make up your own mind about things. So in 1957, the Al-Anon people, which were mostly ladies in that time, found that, you know, they had some teenage children at home that were going through, you know, some things because of the family disease of alcoholism. And the teens' problems, they differed from their adult members in Al-Anon. Their problems were completely different than their parents. So the Al-Anon ladies thought that, you know, maybe we should form a separate group for teens, and that today is called Alateen. They can come into Alateen as young as 9. It just depends on the kid, how mature they are, because, you know, some children at 9 are like they're 25, and others are like they're 3. So if they're immature, you know, and they're going to cause a commotion, then they can't come to the meeting. Otherwise, they are welcome to come. And we say up to 18 years old, but, you know, once a teen is hitting 16, 17, 18, they can come to an Al-Anon meeting. Nobody ever says, no, you can't, because you're 16 or 17 years old. It's the same program. They're getting the same program in Al-Anon as they get in Alateen. So, at the current time, however, teens in Alberta can access an Alateen meeting through the Al-Anon app only. Our registration lapsed, and we are now working on getting our designation back again. And I've heard that we're getting close, but we're not there yet. So if your teens are looking for an Al-Anon meeting, as I said, they can access that on our Al-Anon app. So I came to Al-Anon. I'm just going to say a little bit about my personal story. I came to Al-Anon 21 years ago. And as I said, I grew up in an alcoholic home, but it wasn't that brought me there. It was my son, my adult son. You know, he became an addict. Now, Al-Anon and Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, are designed to and geared to alcohol. We don't talk about other substances usually in our meetings because everything is geared towards alcohol. However, what I found was that once I got into Al-Anon and I started listening to the stories and understanding the program, I realized that I had grown up in an alcoholic home and that I had actually been surrounded by alcoholics my whole life. My son, who is an addict, I wouldn't call him an alcoholic. However, he tells me he can't drink because if he does drink, then he's off to the races to do other things. So I wouldn't call him an alcoholic, but he definitely is somebody who can't drink. And watching my son go downhill was one of the worst things I ever experienced in my life. I needed help, and I needed help desperately, and I needed help for myself. I mean, my life was falling to bits. I had a job. I had other children. I had things I needed to do, and my addict son was taking up all of my time, all of my energy, and all of my money. So, you know, I needed something. I needed to know how to handle the situation, and I tried any number of things to try to get him to stop doing what he was doing. And, you know, basically everything I did, I found out later, was enabling my son to carry on doing what he was doing. He had no intention of stopping, and I was just helping him along the way. Paying somebody else's rent, buying food that they aren't going to eat. You name it, I did it. And all in the name of helping him stop. And nothing worked. So when I finally got to the doors of Al-Anon, I was waiting for somebody to tell me how to do this. And I was very disappointed my first couple of meetings when I realized pretty quickly that that's not what Al-Anon is for. Al-Anon is there for me. It's there for me to go and talk about my feelings and what the disease has done to me. It has nothing to do with trying to stop my son from doing what he was doing or stop any other alcoholic from doing what they're doing. It has to do with myself and taking care of myself. Because if I don't take care of me first, I'm not going to be any use or available to anyone else. And that's what was happening in my life. The time that my son was out in the street and doing his drugs, I was a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser for 35 years. And you know what? I can't remember a few of those years. I don't know what kind of hairdos were going out of that salon, but I don't remember them because I was so wrapped up in what was going on with my son. So I walked into Al-Anon, and, you know, the second meeting I went to, I was walking down the hallway. We always seem to be in a church, our meetings, and we're only there because we get a really good deal from the church. It has nothing to do with the religious connotation. So I was walking down this hallway in a church basement, and I heard a lot of laughter coming from this room. And I thought, well, I must be in the wrong place. I mean, you know, if the people in Al-Anon are as miserable as I am, nobody's going to be laughing in that room. And I walked around the corner, and no, the sign on the door said Al-Anon. I walked in. I was very warmly welcomed by everybody in that room. And I was afraid because the lady who was sitting in the chairperson's seat happened to be a business owner who had her business right across the street from mine. And I thought, oh my God, now everybody's going to know that I'm coming to Al-Anon and that my son is a mess. And, you know, but I realized quickly, anonymity here somewhere, right? I just talked about that. And I also realized that she had the same problems as me. That's why she was there. So, you know, we became friends because we were in Al-Anon together. And, you know, I realized that, you know, I'm in a safe place here. I'm in a place where everybody understands what I'm talking about. They understand what I'm feeling. And whatever I say in this room is not going to go any further than this room. And that's what I have today. I've been going to Al-Anon for 21 years, and I'm what they call a lifer because I am never probably going to quit. Even though I don't live with active alcoholism or addiction today, I am married to a recovering alcoholic. And he has been sober for 41 years. And you might think, wow, he's cured. No, he's not. He still has all the isms of alcoholism. And he still, after 41 years of sobriety, goes to 3 meetings a week. So that's how important our meetings are, not just to alcoholics, but I would, you know, unless I am really, really sick, I never miss my Al-Anon meeting. I feel that when I do miss it, I feel an emptiness that I have missed that meeting. And, you know, my home group meeting meets on Thursday nights. And when I wake up on Thursday mornings, I'm always happy because I know I have my meeting tonight and I'll be seeing my friends. So, we have today at our table, table 67, if you're interested, we have a lot of great Al-Anon literature. We brought some meeting lists with us today and our cards and, you know, how you can get a hold of us. And we certainly hope that you're all going to drop by and take a look at what we have to offer and take it back to your groups or, you know, other resources. Like I said, the last time I was here was in February 2020, and I got a lot of great contacts from this event. It's a wonderful event, and it's far bigger than it was, I think. It looks like there's more people here than there were the last time, so that's great. Okay, so if you came to an Al-Anon meeting today, here in Canada, in Edmonton, or anywhere else in the world, at the end of the meeting, this is what you would hear. Our suggested Al-Anon and Alateen closing. In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly those of the person who gave them. Take what you liked and leave the rest. The things you heard were spoken in confidence and should be treated as confidential. Keep them within the walls of this room and the confines of your mind. A few special words to those of you who haven't been with us long. Whatever your problems, there are those among us who have had them too. If you try to keep an open mind, you will find help. You will come to realize that there is no situation too difficult to be bettered, and no unhappiness too great to be lessened. We aren't perfect. The welcome we give you may not show the warmth we have in our hearts for you. After a while, you'll discover that though you may not like all of us, you'll love us in a very special way, the same way we already love you. Talk to each other, reason things out with someone else, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the understanding, love, and peace of the program grow in you one day at a time. Thanks for your attention and time.